All right, everyone, welcome back. So we're down to the last week. We're going to get the first episode next Sunday, I think, on the 7th, as far as I know, or the 6th, 6th maybe. Um, and I'm really excited. So here I'm going to go through some asks, and then I do have a few things that people have sent me, and some YouTube comments to go through. I'll probably hit those in the next video. And then Well, I guess this is a good segue. I have something that I want to create, but it's going to be long. It's going to be 3 to 5 videos long, so I probably won't get it finished um, before the first episode of Daryl Dixon. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but it's just going to be long. So let me explain. But I'm gonna do it in conjunction with this ask. So if you were watching one of the earlier videos, I said I was going to come back to this because I hadn't dug into it yet. So The Art of Suicide writes, there was a time I had lost hope as a Betheler that she was coming back, until a very specific scene in one of the later seasons of the flagship show happened. I don't remember the episode. I'm sure you already did an analysis of it and I just missed it. But the scene is between Judith and Daryl, and Judith is talking to him, saying something about how would he feel if his family left him behind in a ditch somewhere and forgot about him. Excuse me, I'm badly paraphrasing here because it's been so long. Anyway, when that happened, I was struck so vividly because hot damn, ain't that exactly what happened to Beth? Ugh, yes. Would very much appreciate if you could link me to any previous breakdowns you've done of that scene/episode if you know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for all your hard work and research. You are a pillar of the community, and I've been very much enjoying back watching your videos while I do my skincare every night. I'm so glad I could be part of your skincare routine. Okay, so here's the thing. And this actually does tie into this thing I'm talking about, 3 to 5 video series. So you guys, this past week, I did a bigger rewatch and went down a bigger rabbit hole than I have done in years with The Walking Dead. I know it so well from doing rewatches in the earlier seasons that I don't need to do them very often anymore. But I did in this case. And the thing that I was rewatching, it wasn't specifically the scene you're talking about, but that ties into it in a big way. I was focusing on Operation Lead the Walkers Away, which is 6A, right? So everything from 601 and then that whole arc, which actually goes to 609. So it's a lot of episodes to cover. And I rewatched, not all of them by any means, but I rewatched 1, 2, and 3, and then 8 and 9, and I kind of skip hopped through the others. I didn't go too much into the side missions, so I pretty much totally skipped over Here's Not Here, which is the Morgan Eastman episode, and I skipped over Always Accountable as well. And not because those aren't Bethel coded episodes, we know that those are chock full of Beth um, symbolism, but I wanted to really focus on the main narrative, which is the whole Operation Lead the Walkers Away and everything that happened and everything that happened as a result and how that is symbolic. And I will just cut straight to the chase here. And I'm telling you, you guys, everything that happened there is actually telling us almost blow by blow what happened during the missing 17 days. And we just didn't realize it before. We couldn't figure it out before. So that's why I went down this huge rabbit hole and had to rewatch everything and figure out what everything meant. And I haven't looked at those episodes in literally years. I haven't rewatched them. But I had a lot of fun doing it because that arc is one of my favorite arcs, even though it didn't include Beth. It was Glenn's death fake out, which of course we picked up on. And I remember being really excited about it and really, I think that's why I like it so much because I remember being happy because it was just confirmation that we were right and that Beth would be back eventually. But I also thought it was really, really epic. I love the ending of it when they all have to fight the walkers. Of course, it ends with Daryl setting the lake on fire. I mean, it's just really epic and it's really great. Anyway, I cannot even begin to tell you everything I found here in this video. So I am going to make videos out of what I found, but it's long. I basically brain dumped into a voice recorder, and the recording, the audio of it was 2.5 hours long. That's how much stuff was in it. And yes, of course, there were times that I paused to gather my thoughts and think about things, and there's probably repetition and all of that. But even so, it's long. So then I put it into AI to get it transcribed, and it gave me 50 pages worth of stuff. I mean, again, it's just long. I did send that to my fellow theorists just a few hours ago, and because I would like their insights on some parts of it, some parts where I'm still a little bit stumped. But the point is, I do want to make that into a video so that you guys can see it. I'm actually really excited to do that and to share what I found, but it's because it's long, it's going to take me a little while. Like I said, I probably will not get it fully finished before Daryl Dixon episode 1 drops. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. Maybe you guys can tell me if I get one part, like say I make a 3 video um, series out of it. And if I do that, they're probably going to be 45 minutes to an hour long each, or I could cut it into 5 half-hour videos. But however I do it, if I only get 1 or 2 done, would you guys rather have those, even though I'm going to cut off in the middle of it, before the next Daryl Dixon episode, or would you rather wait till I can post all 5 at once? I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, just whatever you guys would like. Anyway, but I will get them figured out. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this in conjunction with this ask is because what's going on during this part that you're talking about, where Judith and Daryl have this interaction, they're actually doing kind of the same thing. What is going on, and I'll explain what I mean in just a minute. What is going on in this part of the narrative is a replay on a smaller scale of Operation Lead the Walkers Away. And again, Operation Lead the Walkers Away is a replay of what happened during the missing 17 days and is showing us everything about Beth and what actually happened to her, meaning just that she didn't actually die and her coming back. So in this theory that I'm doing, this long theory, I'm actually including something of a smaller analysis of what's going on during this part of the narrative too. So all of this to say, I'm going to show you some of the analysis that I did of this part. I'm not going to read through them all. I will link them in the show notes of this video so that you can read through them. But I also want to tell you that they might be a little bit unsatisfying because at the time and in the past, honestly, throughout most of the flagship show, we were definitely picking up on Beth's symbolism. But there were times that we didn't know how to interpret it. We would just go, oh, that's Beth dialogue, or oh, we have a resurrection symbolism. But we're like, okay, but so what? What does that mean? How do we interpret what this is supposed to mean for the future or the past? You know what I mean? Sometimes we couldn't put it all together. And I would say that when we were watching this part, I wasn't putting it all together, not in the way that I have now. So you will definitely see some of the things that I said. And I think I have some of the things that other people said. But just know that it will make a lot more sense when I get this, multi-part video out. It's going to make a lot more sense to you what was going on here. So I will say too that I love that this particular part is what brought back your faith in Beth's return. That's actually really fantastic because of what was going on and what they were trying to show us in this part. So that's not a coincidence, and it's not just something random they said. I mean, this was very intentional on their part. So this actually happens in episode 10, 15. So remember that season 10, it had the 16 episodes, but then they came back with the bonus episodes because that was during COVID. So if we're talking about before those extra bonus episodes, it was the second to last episode of the season. So it's episode 10, it's season 10, episode 15, and it's called The Tower. And yeah, this is what's happening. Basically, they've already killed off Alpha, and so Beta is in charge, and he's definitely starting to lose it. And he is mad. He's pissed that they killed off Alpha, so he brings the Horde to Alexandria. But they knew he was coming, so they have already cleared out. When he gets there, they aren't there. And they have evacuated to the Tower, which is the same building they used as Grady Memorial Hospital, which is a vacant hospital that, Hollywood uses sometimes. And they laid a false trail and tried to get Beta to think they'd gone to Oceanside, and that worked for a minute. He started going to Oceanside with the Horde, but then he somehow figured it out and he turned them around and they went to the hospital. So then they found themselves surrounded by walkers. Now, before Beta and the Horde gets there, Daryl is out, just walking around, walking the perimeter, being a guard, that sort of thing. And Judith goes out with him. And they come upon some walkers, and it's clear that one of them is a whisperer. You can tell which one she is and that she's not actually a walker. So Daryl shoots her, but he doesn't kill her, and she runs away, and he chases her. And when he finds her, she's laying in a ditch, and it's because the arrow that he shot into her, she was able to run for a while, but eventually she fell down from, loss of blood and weakness. And so he interrogates her, and then he ends up killing her. And Judith is upset that he killed her. She said, "You didn't have to do that." And he just said, well, she was going to die either way, best to make it quick. And she didn't have any more information for us. So Daryl is being pretty harsh, here. And then Judith gets upset. And this is the part you're talking about. She says, I can't, because she didn't like it too that they weren't going to bury her. She says, we're just going to leave her here. And Daryl says, we don't have time for this. We have to go because Beta and the Horde are coming. And so then later she stops and she says, I can't believe we just left her there, in the ditch. And then she said, what if you were lost and no one could find you? And you're right, that is so Beth coded right there. But it's not just some random um, dialogue that they put in there to be Beth coded. It actually has to do with the whole sequence that they're doing here. Because in order to get Alpha's horde, or I mean, I guess in this case, Beta's horde, away from where they are, they do use a wagon that is similar to the car. In this case, it's drawn by horses and music on a radio to draw the walkers away. So it is a replay of Operation Lead the Walkers Away. And it's that whole theme is very much not only telling us what happened during the missing 17 days, but it's giving us the layout of the entire arc for Beth. Okay, so um, anyway, I could go on and on. I'm not going to here, but I'm just going to show you here. I pulled up some of my old metas about this. Let's see. I'm not going to read through them. Like I said, I will link them so that you can. So see 1015, the tower, first thoughts. And you will have to wade through some stuff because there's other things I noticed. So some of it is like Lydia and Negan, he's holding a possum. So I talk about Beth and the possum here and other places we've seen it. I talk about other dialogue, the cat theme that was going on here. So, and then here's where I get to the Daryl and Judith part. And W.D. Way put in some thoughts about Daryl and cats, especially Shiva, as you can see. So there's a lot of this stuff. And then in this episode, we also had Eugene's group meeting Princess. So I have some stuff about that as well. Here's the very clear, this is the same hospital they used for Grady. So you can read through that. And that was the first thoughts. This, I think, is the detail. Yeah, the details. And again, you've got stuff that is probably not terribly relevant to what you're wondering about, but you can read it or not. You can go through it. And then I go into more detail here about Daryl and Judith um, and some other things. And then I even I'll include this and ask about somebody saying that when he said that it was about Leah. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. That is not what it was about. So I will link that. If you want, I can link here, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just link this so that you can get to the theories about season 10. And if you want to read the ones about a certain doom, which is episode 16, you can read that too. But again, it's not going to have all of the analysis I've been talking about here because I didn't know it yet. So you're welcome to look through whatever you want. But in terms of where that line is that you're talking about between Daryl and Judith, it does happen in 1015 in the tower. So you can go through and explore that. And I promise I will get that other thing created and posted as soon as I can. Honestly, it might be a week or two before I finish it, but I'm working on it. Okay. And so just know that this, the arc there that was going on during the end of the Whisperer arc has the same symbolism as Operation Lead the Walkers Away, and I have a lot to say about it, but that is coming. Okay, so thank you for sending that in. Okay, if Beth is revealed to be alive in season 4 and whatever spin-offs she will appear in, will you start writing analysis again or will you continue making videos? I don't know. Honestly, videos are a little bit easier. I know that sounds stupid, but it takes a long time to write things out or type things out. And if I can just share my screen and, give you my thoughts as I go, then uh, I don't know, it feels like I can do it a little bit more quickly and I don't have to do much video editing, a little bit, but not very much. I don't know. Why don't you tell me, do you want analysis to be written out? Especially if you're someone who wants to read it, I can definitely um, help you out with that. Like I can give you what's the word, like a transcription of what I say so that you can read it. Um, or maybe you're just looking for an easier way to reference what I'm saying. I don't know. Tell me if you want something that is written out, and if so, why? Because I may be able to support you in some other way with that than writing it out, but I'm just not, I don't know. The videos are a little bit easier, and I think they're actually easier for most people to consume. I was noticing that when I wrote really long metas, they weren't always being read all the way through. And I understand it's like I'm giving you an encyclopedia to read, and not everybody wants to read that, but most people will listen to the videos. They can listen to them while they're doing other things like exercising or, working around the house so they don't have to stop and actually read it. And so that makes it easier. So I wasn't really planning to go back to writing analysis, but, tell me more and what you're needing from me, and I'll see what I can do. All right. Hi. I saw an interview recently of Chandler Riggs speaking about how he had a lot of scenes as Carl that were cut out and we never saw them. For example, in season two, they shot a scene of Carl pretending to be talking to Sophia on the walkie and telling her that they were going to find her, and we never saw that scene, even in deleted scene packs. I feel like there's too much evidence to debunk TD, but isn't this a little bad for us? No, overall, I don't think it is. I'm sure there are some scenes we haven't seen, and there might even be some Beth and Daryl scenes we haven't seen. I kind of don't think that's true, but I would caveat this with a few different things. Number one, this is back in season two. I would say that by the time Gimple took over, this sort of thing was probably less common. But that doesn't mean that there aren't scenes that were cut during Gimple's tenure that we didn't see. I think us seeing them really depends on what's in them because the scenes that were cut that we did see in deleted scene packs almost always had something important in them. There's a scene from Still that was cut where Beth and Daryl are just walking through the woods and she's talking a lot and he's not saying anything. He's just being Daryl and looking out for walkers and letting her talk. And she talks about the red solo cups and going to a party, and she wouldn't even hold one of those because she was afraid her father would see her and think she was drinking. I think they made sure we saw that, even though it got cut, because the red cups are an important symbol. And I think that's true of a lot of the scenes that we see in deleted scene packs. So it could just be, either number one, I mean, Gimple was not the showrunner, so the showrunner was less vigilant than Gimple was and didn't make sure we saw something, even if it was important. But it also could be that it really wasn't important. If they did cut a scene that didn't have very much importance in it, then there would be no reason for them to make sure we saw it. Now, in terms of, I think you're really more talking about this missing 17 days, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate that that was not a single scene. That was not like the tail end of a scene that got cut off for the sake of time, and it was not um, even a full scene that they cut. Like we had a scene from Coda where Beth went to see Percy after O'Donnell pushed him because he was hurt. That was more of a full scene she did with that actor who played Percy, and that was cut. We did see that in the deleted scene pack, but this wasn't even that. It wasn't even just like a full scene like that that got cut. This was an entire production. This was days and days of work and thousands of dollars in camera equipment and paying people to be there and lights and lighting and scripting and all kinds of things. So the things we're talking about that were cut from season five, it's not a single scene and it's not part of a scene. It's way more massive than that. And I believe that it's not even, again, based on the theory that I'm going to give you in a few days, this was probably several episodes worth of stuff. I don't know how much or how long, but I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's going to be at least 3 episodes worth of stuff, maybe more. We just don't know exactly how long it's going to take. So that's not a single scene being cut. And that's why it's just different from the examples that you're giving. Scenes that were cut from Carl, maybe they were important, maybe they weren't. Maybe we haven't seen every scene that had to do with Beth and Daryl, but I believe we've seen the ones that are important. And in terms of season five, it's not a single scene. It is so much bigger than that. So I don't think that it applies across the board. We're talking about two different scenarios there. So that's my take on that. I hope that helps. Other than Daryl and Maggie, who are you more excited to see Beth reunite and interact with? Or maybe meet and interact with? Me personally, with all the similarities between them both, I want to see her interact with Rick more. Oh, so many. I want to see her interact with everybody. Because at the prison, they were all pretty close. So even though we don't think of Beth and Michonne as besties or Beth and Carol as besties, I still want to see them reunite. And it's going to be emotional no matter what. What this puts me in mind of is back in the days of Game of Thrones. I'm going to give you a little bit of a Game of Thrones spoiler here. So if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead. But this aired a long time ago. Um, One of the first reunions they did for that show was John and Sansa. And no one really thought of them as two people who we wanted to see reunite. I mean, maybe in a general way, we wanted to see the whole family reunite and everything, but the two of them were never very close. She was kind of a princess and was not very nice to him when they were younger. And he didn't really care for her either. I don't think he was mean to her, but he just ignored her, because she didn't like him anyway. So they were not close. They did not have a relationship. So it was nothing like Beth and Daryl, where we want them to reunite and they're searching for each other and there's emotions here. It wasn't like that. Even so, that was a really powerful reunion. And I remember I used to get together with all of my brothers, and we would huddle around the TV and watch the newest Game of Thrones episode. And I remember my brothers looking at me, and they kept looking around, going, "Is she really there? Are they really going to reunite?" You know, and it was really shocking that it just sort of happened, and it was beautiful. It was really emotional, right? And that was nothing compared to what we're hoping for with Beth and Daryl. And so that's what I mean. Like, even though maybe, like I said, some of these other relationships, like Michonne and Beth or something, they're not the ones we want to see the most. Like you said, obviously Daryl and Maggie are going to be the biggest ones. I still think that anybody she sees and reunites with from those days, it's going to be a big deal and it's going to be really lovely. So anyway, you asked me specifically. Obviously, I would like it with anybody from that time. I do want to see her and Rick. I do want to see her and Michonne, her and Carol. Um, I want to see her and Judith. I think Beth is going to break down when she sees Judith because not only has she not seen her in so long, and last time she saw her, she was a baby, but I'm still not even sure that Beth knows Judith is alive. She and Daryl kind of thought that all the kids were killed because of the shoe they found by the railroad track. And of course, the shoe was too big to be Judith's, but she went looking for Judith and couldn't find her. So I don't think she knows, at least not for sure, that Judith got out of the prison. Like she, it was after Beth was taken from Daryl that he reunited with Rick, and then Rick was able to reunite with Judith. So Beth never knew that Tyrese got her out. So I even wonder if she thinks Judith is even alive. So imagine a child you cared for from the time she was an infant until, however old she was, 18 months or 2 years old, and then thinking she died and then seeing her again as a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? Like that would be so shocking. And I think that's going to be really, really emotional for Beth. In terms of meeting people, I think it would be, I always wanted her to meet Abraham, and that didn't happen. But I would like to see her interact with Eugene. I think that would be really funny. Everyone always, Eugene has become a lot more social and a lot more personable since we first met him. And I'm sure Max, especially, will help him with that. But I don't know. I just think of the way that when he starts talking in that really detached scientific way he has, and everybody looks at him like he's crazy. I feel like Beth would still be really nice to him because she's so compassionate. I almost feel like she's drawn to misfits a little bit. And so I think that would be fun for her and Eugene. And then there's another one that you may or may not know, depending on whether you watch The World Beyond, but I actually have this really weird desire to see her be really good friends with Silas. I don't know why. Probably, I do think they were doing a little bit of a Beth and Daryl proxyism that Silas was part of, and that's probably why. But he's really big. For anyone who didn't watch it, he's like Jerry. He's just a big guy. And I just think it would be fun if the two of them were good friends. And so I kind of want her to meet Silas and be friends with him. Um, but like I said, I'd be happy with just about anybody. But obviously, the biggest one is Daryl and then Maggie. So yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question. I wasn't terribly specific, or rather, I gave you a lot of different answers. But that's just how I roll. So okay, we've been going a little while. I'm going to cut it off here. And I will be back with another video later in the week. And yeah, just stay tuned. We're coming really, really close to the premiere of Daryl Dixon Season 3, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. Talk to you soon.